Hey everybody, this is Al with El Rey Collection. Hope everybody's having a great day. Sorry for the delay on this. Had got a little sick coming out of the national, and but I have got a number of requests to kind of walk through what I liked, what I didn't like. So I figure I'll do this here. Should be pretty quick, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard various things from various sources. So I'll try to keep it quick. You can see it was the IX Center in Cleveland this year. There were two real events: the National, which was from the early morning until 6 p.m., and then from 6 p.m. till midnight, we had the SOCO Expo, the first soccer focused show that I can recall. Seeing, I think Brian may have done one at some point, but this just happened a couple weeks ago here at the end of July, and so it was happy to go and share my experiences, which many people requested. So let's start off with the national. The national, the pros. I rarely find anything to buy at the national, but particularly this walk through the national. Again, it was this gigantic. You can see this little picture here. This gigantic, um, center outside of Cleveland, down by the airport, which is kind of far away from kind of the nicer housing options. You've got a lot of airport type hotels that are nearby, but it's just far away from the downtown. But let's start with the positives. The pros, you got to meet people, you got to hang out, you got to talk to collectors and dealers that have similar interests. That's great. So you make contacts with these people. That's fantastic. You meet new people that are, kind of in the tribe, so to speak, of collecting. You get grading on site, so you can drop your your card off. It's not about getting, overly concerned about, oh my God, did they get it? It's kind of lost in the mail for a couple of days, which can be really stressful when you're doing submissions. Personally, so that's great. Although SGC didn't grade on site this year, you had Beckett, CGC, and PSA grading on site. And personally, for me, Cleveland, the city, is actually underrated. When you walk in there, especially, I want to say maybe Friday, there was just this sense of just the hobbies thriving. There's just so many people. It may have been the busiest national in terms of people that I've seen. And then, this year, unlike other years, we had the double reason to go, right? We had the SOCO Soccer Expo. We had a lot of people coming in from overseas. So that was good. But, let's go now on to the cons. Basically the stuff that sucked. There was a lot, unfortunately. So, the parking was just chaotic. The traffic, just getting there, drop offs. I know lots of people that just got out of their Ubers like, half a kilometer, even before, the event, and just walk the rest of the way. It was just kind of chaos there. So that wasn't great. The internet is always a struggle at the national, and I just don't understand how the promoters can't figure this stuff out. But it was terrible. And so, given how far this was away from downtown, it was also next to impossible to get Ubers. I had to reset my phone many times. Actually, ultimately hitched a ride with Ed Strauss, who was able to actually get internet on one of these times. So it was just a complete mess. It's completely inexcusable to have that type of a situation. So that was absolutely terrible. The pricing at the booths, I may just go off here for a bit, but it was just absolutely crazy. I mean, like, I understand, look, it costs money to go to the national. I understand that people would want to maybe make a little bit more than the comps because, you've got airfare and insurance and travel and renting, the booth and other things. But honestly, it, like, the prices that I saw in many cases were 2, 3, 4x what comps were. I mean, not 10, 15%. Hey, help me cover some of my costs. You got to see it in person instead of just online a scan. That may be a little bit more valuable, but it was just crazy. One case in particular saw this Aquarella album, and the guy was just telling this other poor customer about how valuable it was, how rare it was, and wanted 5 grand for it. And I think on the market, that would probably be a stuck Aquarella album. What, 1,000 for not so good one, maybe a perfect one that looked like it was going to be easy to remove, maybe 1,500 or something in this market. And just trying to talk someone up to 5 grand was just, to me, rubbed me the wrong way. Kind of felt a little disgusting. Look at, some things are so rare, maybe you can't price them, but an Aquarella album's not one of them. And the same could have been said about vintage baseball. Didn't see a lot of transactions, going down, but the booth pricing was, just made me want to puke, frankly. Which I don't personally appreciate. Like, you also as an individual have to pay what, $30 a head just to get into the event for the particular day. So that kind of, that to pay $30 to walk around to see overpriced things 2, 3, 4x, it's just double thumbs down for me on that. And then SGC not grading on site kind of rubs me the wrong way. They had been, I think there was a national or two where they didn't do it, maybe when they were just moving down to Florida, but most of the time they were doing it. And I know that they're part of CU now, and CU obviously wants to focus on the PSA brand and PSA pricing, but that's kind of a bummer. I mean, you could drop off some submissions and get those sent down to SGC, but them not being there for on-site grading, didn't love that. Of course, the cost, you get 100,000 people or more, arriving in a city, that kind of drives up the costs all around, whether that's hotels. I was in a fine hotel, but it's $300 a night. And that's, a little high for what I'd call a secondary US city. And it wasn't a great hotel, but whatever. And more, I think my biggest complaint is just the location, how far away the IX Center is from downtown. Housing it isn't super fun, and frankly, even with the national, when it's in Chicago, which it will be again next year, the Stevens Center is again far from downtown Chicago. I would, say that, hey, if you're going to go to a city, especially if you hadn't been there before, take advantage of some of the local things. Like, you could have gone to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, stuff like that. If there was a site, and there is in Chicago, it's probably too expensive for the national, but there are other sites, downtown, which are amazing. And would provide much more, housing around, so that people could also do other things, whether that's go to the Bean, take a tour of the river in Chicago, or, other things like some of the museums there, or even games, right? So, and that was the other thing. It was a bummer the Guardians weren't in town. It would have been nice to catch a baseball game. Unfortunately, the last game that they had was a daytime matinee on Wednesday. So unless you arrived early Wednesday, then you weren't able to take that in. I think coordinating that with some professional sports team. I mean, these are sports, national conventions. It would be good to see different stadiums, different teams, but alas, did not happen. So anyway, I'd say that if my main purpose for going to the national was the national itself, it would be a big thumbs down, maybe even a double thumbs down. Based on that, unless you had a significant amount of grading that you wanted to do, incredibly high value cards that you wanted to get back relatively, quickly, that may make it worth it for the peace of mind. But, I didn't buy anything on the floor there. Not typically my expectation, given my high focus on soccer, but all the baseball vintage tables, table after table after table, with all the same stuff, it just was a little exhausting. Again, getting to see Greg Krindler down here on this. I don't know if you can see, he's a great painter. Actually painted this painting behind me, if you can see that up there, of Santa Clara. So it was great to see him, and just a bunch of other people. It was fantastic. But again, if your objective is to buy stuff at reasonably priced area, seeing a large swath of things that are available, and your hope is to see some soccer, actually don't spend your money, don't go. there's nothing like that for you at the National. Sure, there's some cards there. You have to dig for hours, be there for days. But I mean, a dang eBay search on anything will give you much more inventory than you saw at the National, at least as far as soccer goes. If you're primarily in the 1950s, 60s, 70s vintage baseball collector, then and don't mind paying higher prices than you'd find on Fanatics, then by all means, go ahead and check this out. On the Negro League side, which I know is an area that most people focus, there were a few cards, and again, most of those happen to be overpriced as well. And people, definitely, I didn't see many transactions happening. Okay, so that's kind of the National. I hate to kind of start on the negative, but that's the big show. That's what people, go to. But let's go on to kind of the highlight of the trip for me, which was the SOCO Expo. You got some pictures here. There's a Scott and Mitch here. Here's Scott. For those of you who don't know him, here's Mitch. We've got this was the SOCO event up here. You can see pretty well attended. Lots of people at tables. It was really nice, constant flow of people. Actually, hard to even sit down. Here's kind of a group picture of a lot of people, that we had here, including Matt Handler from PSA over here. But it was a really, really fun time. Again, same thing you like about the National, we like about SOCO. Lots of connections. There's tons of foot traffic, able to talk to people, introduce a lot of people to the vintage area of the hobby. That was kind of fun. Sales were actually, happening. I wouldn't say that, Bill and I, sold out our entire inventory, but we, sold some things here and there, had some transactions, and it was nice to move some of our duplicates into the collections of others, especially people who are connected on the Discord. We got a number of new Discord, people. In fact, Alex, my son right here, I was helping one of the older gentlemen kind of get attached to the Discord, helping them through all the screens, helping them download the app and stuff. So that was kind of fun. And it was super relaxed and fun, not a high stress environment by any stretch of the imagination. People got to see some fun cards that they hadn't seen. And, we had a beverage or two there to celebrate, kind of being together. Here's Adam Pelkey. So, Mitch, it was fun, Miles. We had a bunch of people out there, and depended on the day. So that was absolutely fun. So there was transactions, most of the pricing, with some exceptions, it's pretty close to market. People are kind of aware of comps. So things actually happen. And then, I'd say that a lot of the other tables and dealers that I talked to out there, are pretty happy with the foot traffic and their personal events, their personal, sales and experience. Like, it was worth the effort for them. So I don't know fully how to calibrate that, but the vibe was generally positive. A number of the Europeans that came over said they were happy with their sales and happy that they'd made the trip all the way over from Europe, which is saying something, right? Because in the first slide I was complaining about how even from South Carolina, well, we had some flight delays, but it was kind of a pain to get there. Imagine what it was like from Europe. So they came over and they still thought this is the highlight of the show for them, which is really kind of cool. There are still some things that I didn't love about it. The transportation from the National was not super clear. There was a bus. Alex and I took that one day to kind of see what that was like. Wasn't super well labeled, didn't exactly know where to go. And there were only 6 people on our bus, which was the 6 o'clock bus. So it wasn't like a bus that was leaving super late or super early. So kind of feel like that didn't work out as great as possible. There may have been other promotion at the National, but I didn't see any promotion. So I think we could have even had more people if there was more promotion. Maybe it wasn't allowed on site. Again, I don't know. Could probably check with Adam on that. But, I kind of felt like all of the work that we did ahead of time got some people there, but there was probably more people to be had if the communication was clear at the Nationals. People were coming out. And it was a bit far from the Nationals, about 10, 15 minutes, I'd say. At least in the bus, it was slightly longer. I think in the Uber, it was a little less, but to be expected. So kind of remote from where the National was, but it was fine. It was in the realm of acceptable. Could have been a little less. And then, of course, most of the tables had shiny stuff. So if you're a vintage collector, you were probably only going to be super happy if you stopped at Bill and I's table, or if you went to, there was some Italians that had set up, down, or there was one or two things on some other tables, but not. It wasn't like a tremendous amount of vintage. So if you're mostly a vintage soccer collector, you would have seen some stuff, but it wouldn't have been inundated. In fact, I would venture that with if you just spent a month on Fanatics Weekly, PWCC, whatever, you would probably see as much or more than what you saw here at our tables and all the other tables. Of course, a little bit of hit or miss depending on what you're looking for and all that type of stuff. But long story short, I think it was those are some of the pros and the cons. Of course, in the end, there were super long days. I mean, basically, if you went to, like, I know Scott and Bill did, if you went to the National at like 8 or 9 a.m. and you're closing down at midnight, that's pretty brutal. So those made for really, really, really long days. Alex and I weren't as aggressive. We usually go to the National in the afternoon and before going over to SOCO. And the best nights at SOCO, I'd say, were probably Thursday and Friday. Saturday slowed down a significant amount. And I happened to be there solo as Bill had to leave, and so did Scott on Saturday. So it's just Alex and I holding down the fort, but still totally, totally worthwhile to do the SOCO. I'm not sure if SOCO will happen again in Chicago. Certainly hope that it will. But the guys that organized it, Adam and Scott here in Cleveland, are based in Cleveland, so I think they're and they weren't doing this as a for-profit endeavor. It was more just to promote soccer in general, which I'm super appreciative of and happy that we could be a small part of that. And so I don't know what the deal is for Cleveland. I mean, for Chicago next year. I know that it won't, like, Bill and I won't be like organizing that to that extent, but it did kind of create a question of whether we should do something, instead of once a year, find another place, whether that's Houston or a different show, where we could all show up and go and do this again. And we had a bunch of people. I mean, I probably, if I had to guess, probably ran into 30 or so people that were on the Discord in one form or another, either lurkers or people that are there, on the daily sharing stuff. So we missed some big names. We missed the champ. He was going to show up, didn't make the trip. Certainly would have liked to see him, Nick, Seb, some of the real, big contributors. Would have been great to see them. Maybe we'll see them next year. But we did get some of the great familiar names, where we had, Matt was there again, Mitch, I think we'd mentioned Scott, of course, Pelkey, Adam was there, even Dave, Zico, son of Zico. So there's a lot of great. Peter was a great Brazilian collector. So lots of people, did make it. Would have been great to have a few more, but it was still an amazing thing. Super fun to see the tribe, and hope if anybody had any comments, I missed something, just kind of threw this together to get it out, because a lot of people had pinged me and asked about it, and I didn't really want to, say the same thing 50 times. Easier to make a quick video. And certainly hope you liked the video. Hey, can you like this video? If you did, it would really help out the channel. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe, and let me know any of your comments, what you liked, what you didn't like about the National. And at the very least, please join our Discord so you can get into our conversation. And as we talk about mostly vintage soccer cards, but we also talk about women's, and Adam's a big collector of the women's game, as well as modern and even other sports like F1 and cricket we discussed there. So anyway, thanks everybody for listening to my review of the National. Hope that you got something out of it, and it helps you plan for 2025 and beyond. And again, please like my video and subscribe if you're not subscribed. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye bye.